I apologize for being 6 minutes late. Elevator issues. Good to be back. Good to be here in Indy, which we live here, but the Combine being here, every year I say it, and I can't emphasize enough the job that Jeff and his team do to get everything. It's a lot of logistical hurdles that they got to clear. They got to please a lot of different parties and also get the fundamental reason we're here is to evaluate players. So they do a tremendous job. All right, fire away.
Chris, well, do you plan on using the franchise tag with Michael Pittman Jr. if you aren't able to get a deal done in the next?
Here's what I tell you. We've had talks with his agent, who's really good. His agent's been doing it a long time. He's really good at what he does. We'll work hard to get a deal done. It's a tool we have. I'm not going to say we're not going to use it, but I'm not going to say we are. Hopefully we can come to an agreement and find some compromise on a deal.
What do you see happening with the running back market this year, given the available backs and what happened last year?
I mean, this is you pay good players. You pay good players, and each team chooses to do that. I can't give you what other teams are going to do. I know what we did. We like our guy. We like Jonathan. We end up working out.
How much did, obviously you knew what kind of backs were going to be available in free agency this year. How much did that factor into when you were negotiating with Jonathan, and how much was it, we want to keep our guy because there's some importance to that in the locker room?
No, I think our history's shown. I mean, we want to keep our guy. And plus, he's a talented guy. I mean, this guy's I think you saw it as the year went on. I mean, I kind of look, he's recovering from an injury, then the stressful training camp. But I thought as the season went on, you saw him getting stronger and stronger, and I thought he ended really well against Houston, finished a really great game. So, no, I mean, look, always the preference is take care of your own people first.
When it came to the increase in salary cap, does that thought of taking care of your own in-house free agents come to your mind first?
Well, it always is first, and yes, we did see an increase, and then I think it will be a slower increase going forward. All right, so I don't think we're going to see a $30 million jump every year, so you've got a plan appropriate for that. It definitely gives you more room to work with. Everybody in the league, we're in good shape, but I think it gave everybody a little bit more of a parachute. So I think it goes both ways. We have the big jump this year, then it kind of levels out going forward over the next 4 or 5 years.
Chris, last season, with the season that you had, maybe it was a surprise to you, maybe not, but with where you were, you had the opportunity to maybe take that next step, and it could be a big step. How will that inform how you operate in the offseason?
I mean, look, I think it's a good, it's always free agency. Everybody gets excited for that week and stamps a future Super Bowl winner off of that. But what you're seeing is, all right, so you got free agency, you got the A-level players. Well, what happens with them? They get tagged. All right, so now you got the next level one that you end up paying A money. If there's one on the market that we think fits us, and look, it takes two sides here. I mean, there's times you'll make a big offer to a player, and you just don't get him. He goes somewhere else. That's part of it. We'll be as aggressive as we need to be, and when we think we need to be.
Chris, you talked in January about how having a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal gives you flexibility. Does it impact the draft too, where you're not looking at those guys, or maybe how you approach free agency with reinforcing the roster around him?
No, I mean, it does, because you want to give him as much as you can to be successful, which one, I think you got to make sure he's protected. I mean, I think you know my philosophy on that. You have to make sure your quarterback, especially a young quarterback, you got to make sure he's protected. Then you want to put enough good players around him to be successful, whether that comes through free agency or the draft. I think each year's a little different. And we kind of adjust to however it says. Like, you'll have areas in free agency where there's some depth, and you'll have areas in the draft that are some depth. You try to offset with the areas you don't think there's much depth in free agency.
How does Anthony's skill set adjust maybe the types of players you're looking for in the draft or free agency?
I mean, he's explosive. He's explosive within himself. I think we all saw that. Just even with the short span he was playing, he's explosive within himself. And so, look, the more good, reliable players that you can put around him, the better. Well, number one, protect him. All right. Then number two, try to put the best players you can around him.
When we
Obviously,
talked
your
to
goal
him,
is to get him healthy again. Do you feel like is he where you thought he'd be in his rehab at this
Yeah,
point?
that's good. No, really happy about where he's at. He started throwing. He's on a rehab program. We're not gonna, I lived through the last one, okay, and I learned a lot of lessons living through the last one. So, forgive me for being a little cautious, but, and Anthony, I know Anthony's made some statements that it's important to be ahead of schedule. Well, we're here to pull the reins to make sure we don't get too far ahead of schedule, and we're staying with whatever the doctors are telling us. So, but he's in good shape. He's throwing. He's got a good throwing program. Got good people working with him. So I'm encouraged about where he's at and where he's going, and we'll go from there.
How much of a balance is it to know that he still has a lot to learn because he didn't play that much last year, but also building on whatever experience he had from playing?
Here's where I have a lot of faith in Shane and really the offensive staff. They do a really good job with playing to the strengths of what a player can do. Now, of course, the more snaps you get as a player, no matter what position you play in the league, but especially quarterback, the more snaps you get, the more you can put on their plate, the more experience they have, the more success they'll have. Will the menu be as big early in his, whether he played all last year? I can't say yay or nay, because I leave that on the staff, but I do have a lot of confidence in them to whatever they think he does well, that's what we'll do.
Is there a primary position the Colts will focus on in free agency?
That's a loaded question, man. No.
A lot of
all of them.
A lot of D linemen and linebackers are talking about their versatility. Does having the ability to be positionless weigh any more or less in your draft evaluation?
I don't understand positionless. I don't quite understand that term. I mean, they got to line up somewhere. The ability to kick inside and outside. I mean, I think you've seen that. That's not a new concept in our league. I mean, defensive ends kicking inside to play 3 technique on rush downs is not a new concept. So I don't quite get the positionless part of it. The versatility of players, I do think the one area that you really have seen the game advance, especially at linebacker, where third down and playing the pass is a premium. And I mean, it's always kind of been my thoughts anyways. And I mean, look, when we took Darius, that was the main reason why. Third down had nothing to do with first and second down, to do with his ability to play the pass. So I don't quite understand the positionless part of it, but I think you start with the passing game, and then how do they impact the passing game, and then go from there, and then where you play them on passing downs.
Last year, you started 2 rookie cornerbacks for the majority of the season. With that knowledge in your head, does it make you want to target a veteran to bring into that room, opposed to using the draft to add to that room?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I think it's got to fall your way. I thought Kenny Moore was a really good vet player, had a good year. Would like to have him back. We'll see how it works out in free agency. But no, I mean, look, they're going to live through their lumps, and that's part of it. And I thought they both advanced really well. I thought Jones. I mean, look, Jones. All he did was get out there and battle each and every week. And then with Juju, it's about staying healthy. You know, Juju's got to remain healthy.
Jim Nagy mentioned back in Mobile that the transfer portal and NILs probably made day 3 of this year's draft a little tough. Do you view that as more of a challenge, or is like the board shrinking?
No, I'll tell you this. So I think we went over 2,718 players, where I think before COVID, we were at about 1,800 players. So where you're not seeing it shrink. You're seeing a lot more guys with 6 years coming into the draft, a little older player coming into the draft. Look, I always think the more a guy can play in college, the more experience he gets, the better it is. They come in more prepared. It's not the world we live in. You're going to get guys that are young, and you just deal with it either way. And you just got to have a plan to handle it, whatever the case is. So I don't necessarily think it's less players. I mean, we're looking at more players just because of the 5th and 6th years of guys staying in college.
Where's this attention
I pay attention to it. We do a lot with our players internally anyways, and ask their feedback. What I would tell you, there's some things I would probably debate with them, but I mean, we pay attention to it. Do I take it 100% to credence? No. But there'll be questions asked, and we'll get feedback, and then things that I'll tell you this: I don't know many players that have been with us that don't want to be back. I mean, that's just been my take on it for the most part. So there's always things you can get better at. There's always things you can get better at. What's that? I knew. I left myself open for that one. No, I'll keep that internal.
Chris, when you see a player like Marvin Jr. is doing things the way he's doing it, not working here, maybe not as a pro day, what's your reaction? Is that just an aberration?
I mean, look, would you love every player to come here and compete and do everything? I mean, do everything. Absolutely. It's a chance for them to knock it out, and that way their travel schedule's less. They don't have to worry about the pro days. You'd rather them do everything. But, I mean, I think this is my 24th year in the league, and every year there's always been guys that don't work out. Now, eventually they do it on the back end. Like there's things, guys are taking stances to do things a little differently. He's a very, very talented player. And, whatever decision a kid makes, then the club has to make that decision if they're comfortable still taking him based on what information you have. You made it.
Yeah, yard line.
But a related question, I guess, the wide receiver class. We've heard a lot about it. Just what are your early sentiments about it?
It's good. It's depth. Yeah, a lot of depth at every level, as a matter of fact. No, it's strong. It's a really strong class. And I think every year, I mean, I don't know if you see him as strong as this, but I compare it almost like when Pitt came out. I mean, that year was really good with, and Jefferson and Ayuk and Pitt. Then the upper part of the draft, I mean, I think CeeDee Lamb was in that draft. I mean, it's comparable,
I know you had the
couple more here.
I know you had the three receivers that played so much for you last year. Do you have to add at that spot just in case they're not all healthy?
Good point. I'll tell you one of the big, I think I told y'all after the season, like losing Doolin, I mean, and I told y'all, I did a poor job, really, I mean, because we were kind of manufacturing that. You saw it with the practice squad moves up. Doolin was a huge loss. I mean, just because he gives you so much, not only on special teams, but his ability to play inside and outside. If you have to start him for a stretch, he can do it. So that was a big, and it was kind of a freak. I mean, it was an ACL on grass in training camp, a non-contact. So it's a freak deal. I've got to do a better job of helping Reggie and the offensive staff and make sure and nothing against the players we had in there playing. It was a rotation all year, and that's hard. That makes it really hard on the coaches. I blame myself for that one.
Is there any beauty, Chris, in the idea that what Harrison's doing, everybody could do and not train for track for 3 or 4 months and be a football player?
Not everybody's Marvin Harrison. Not everybody's Marvin Harrison. Yeah.
The idea that you could be a full-time football player coming out of college instead of turning into a track.
Well, I guess what I would tell you is most of the players, you don't find many of them that when they get to us are out of shape. I think the hardest thing, I'll tell you what, the hardest thing for the rookie, in my opinion, is like they finish their college season, which is going longer, right? Then they get strictly into training, combine, visits, rookie camp, OTAs. I mean, it's almost a cycle that doesn't end until the season ends. So, I mean, preparing for combine, preparing for football, they're really, at the end of the day, they're basically the same thing. I mean, they're getting ready to run.
How'd you see Shane?
Last one here.
How'd you see Shane grow throughout his first season? I know he's super prepared, but obviously I would imagine that there's something that might have changed from week 1 to week 18.
That's a good question. His adaptability, which I think y'all know I've talked a long time about. He's a problem solver, and to watch the problem get, because as the season goes on, they get more complex. They do. Injuries, how your team's playing, figuring out who you are as a team, just because of all the natural change that goes on, and then to watch him grow as a problem solver. Because like there's going to be weeks, and this is across the league, and I don't care if you're the Kansas City Chiefs or anybody else, you're going to have problems, and you have to be able to solve them. To watch him solve the problems this year and grow in that area was really fun. Let's just take the running back position. I mean, he had to mix and match what we were doing with the back end of our roster at wideout. He was having to mix and match how many we dressed. I mean, to watch him understand the mechanics of game, of the roster, the 48-man on game day, watch him help solve the problem. That was pretty cool to watch. And he's just gonna continue to grow and get better at it. And it's always like Shane and I get along really well. But I will tell you, my best relationships come through challenging each. It's not no. There's some challenging going on, and you want that. You like. Why wouldn't you want that? That's a relationship. Relationship's not you both agree. So you both challenge.
Room. Are you happy with what you've got? Do you feel like you need to improve there?
No, look, I mean, I think in kind of their skill sets are all different. Do we have a elite tight end like a Kelsey or a no? But what we have is a good room that's with some pretty good players that all have a different skill set, from Mo Alley Cox to what Granson brings. We thought Mallory really offered something different. Not having Jelani Woods, who we had big hopes for, with him being, hurt all year. This new staff really doesn't even know who he is. They haven't had a chance to work with him. So, and we think he's got, some upside. So we do like the room. We like what it has to offer. They're all a little different. You want to have a guy, like the hardest guy to find is the blocker. I know we all pay attention to the DF, and you always want the dynamic playmaker, but I'm telling you, the hardest one to find is a guy that can block on the edge.
Chris, not just tight end, but corner, safety, some of these spots where you got a lot of young players who maybe haven't, established themselves as starters. How do you weigh giving them that rope with adding somebody who maybe you think can be elite?
Well, I think you got to continually add competition. And look, they play, like I always say this, like after you play 7 or 8 games in the league, you're no longer a rookie. And then you start to normalize on who you are. Now, it's always a different progression for everybody. So some guys might come on earlier than some, but we like the talent level of those guys. And they did some really good things during the year. And look, there were some plays they gave up, but I didn't think it was a total sieve in the back end.
Chris, is there a biggest area of position of need?
I wouldn't answer that anyways, but I will. You asked the question. We're always looking to fill the best player.
What's your feel for that? What's your feel for that?
This is kind of an open-ended. That's the wrong word, but I guess approaching this draft. Last year we knew quarterback, a couple other positions. Do you feel a little bit more liberated this year because you have some depth at a variety of areas?
Look, when you feel good about your head coach. Look, Shane hadn't done it, so you didn't know. And we still got to have Anthony prove it, even though we like where he's at. And he's going to go through some growing pains still. Let's don't just expect him to step out there and be Superman right away. But is it a lot of better comfort of feeling knowing that you're not going out chasing a vet and having to dump a bunch of resources into that? Absolutely it is. You still don't ever want to pass one in the draft, especially early, that you think can be a real difference maker. So I think if you pigeonhole yourself into one position, you can kick yourself down the line. So we'll keep an open mind. We always want to get better at every position, but it's something that we'll keep an open mind and get the board lined up the right way.
Where are you with that 15 position? Is that one that you can potentially move around quite a bit?
Yeah, it's so early. Nobody right now. You're just still gauging the landscape. You just finished college meetings, so now we're getting to medical. I would tell you we've got a lot of information, but not all the information. And then as you get closer to the draft, that's when you get a feel of whether you're going to be able to move up, move back, stay where you're at. You'll get a better feel as that comes along.
Chris, on Drew?
We all knew, and you knew, and we knew what position you were going to go for. This year, you're not going to tell us, but do you know what position you would like to see?
I have a pretty good idea.
Okay, what is it?
It's one that is going to be playing on Sunday, and you'll be calling out his name. The best answer I can give.
Chris, you talked in January that You didn't know about Braden Smith's surgery. Did he have surgery? And any chance JT had any kind of cleanup on his ankle?
No, JT's good. Jonathan's, it's great for him. He's in a great spot. He's healthy, which I think is going to make for a big year. I'm expecting a big year out of him. Yes, Braden Smith did go through a surgery, and it was on his knee that had been kind of bothering him all year, but surgery was successful. He's in good shape. Should
Any
be
others?
good to go. No, that was impact guys.
Blackman didn't.
No, Julian's good. Rest of them are good. Yeah.
Chris, busy time of year. How involved has Jim Irsay been? And what can you say about what's happening with him? Is he
appreciate you
involved in
asking.
the day-to-day these days?
No, I appreciate you asking. We stay in touch. Okay, he is, and this is about all I'm going to say on this, but he is progressing well. We are talking. We talk, Shane and I have talked to him multiple times, and we keep him abreast of anything. Look, at the end of the day, we're not going to do anything without his approval. And so we still keep him in the loop. I mean, you know him now. I mean, he wants to know. He loves his team. He wants to, and so, you know, he's making his way, and he's doing well. He's getting better.
Do you have any update on Drew Ogletree?
None right now.
You mentioned in January that you thought the pass rush could be a little better even with the 51 sacks. Any specific part of the pass rush after looking at it that you think?
That's good. I mean, that's a good question. You know, what we found, like, especially later in the season, we were getting a lot of max protection, and it's something Gus and the staff got to work through. You know, teams started max protecting, and you know, it makes, I don't care who you got. I mean, it makes it difficult when you're protecting with, you know, 7-8 guys. But I think you're always trying. You want to be able to feel. Look, I thought they played good football. The 51 sacks was good, but you know, you always want to keep that area of strength.
Can you talk about why the Ollie, the switch from the D-line coach? I mean,
Shane had made a decision. Look, I think Nate's got an unbelievable future, and thought he did a tremendous job. And look, at the end of the day, Shane makes decisions with the staff, and I'll consult. But look, I think the world of Nate Ollie. I think guys is really good and is going to be a long-time coach in this league.
How have you seen Pitt grow from 2020 till now, not only like on the field, but just as a human being?
Pitt's always we have an interesting relationship, and one that's really good, but it is no doubt honest. I mean, blunt honest, and which I like. Like anytime he comes to my office. I don't know if I can't remember if I told you all story. Like he'll come in, and one day he came in. Hey, I go, what? He goes, I just checking in. I said, good. Come in. You can come in then. No, I mean, look, he cares about winning. He wants to win, and when you're a good player, part of that is you want the football. Like I don't know if I want to be around a guy that doesn't want the ball. That's okay. Just do it, and it's okay to show your personality, and it's okay to demand it. You can do it. There's a way to do it. A right way to do it, but it's one of the things I appreciate about Pitt. The one thing you never have to worry about with that guy is he empties the tank. He absolutely empties the tank.
Chris, with Pitt again, whether it's going to be the tag or whether it's going to be a long-term deal, in your head, will he be here in September?
Yes.
One way or the other?
Yeah. That was a really good question. That's the old vet coming out right there. That's the old vet. And that's the reason I answered it. I mean, finally, that's the old vet.
We know you were a huge fan of Josh Downs at this time last year, but did any part of his rookie season surprise you or surpass what you thought he could be, or is there another level he can get to also?
Well, of course, there's another level. Nothing he did surprise me. I mean, the tape was good coming out of college. He produced in college. The first rookie mini camp, he was outstanding. And then he had the knee cleanup. But no, he's an instinctive, talented kid with the ball in his hands, and I think it'll just continue to. I think you'll continue to see him shine going forward.
With backup quarterback,
more.
If you guys lose Gardner, is there any desire to get a backup whose skill set maybe fits what Anthony does a little bit more?
I think the biggest you want to. It's hard. Look. I mean, that's what was so great about Gardner. You're able to, pull out more wins. Than most when the backup quarterback usually goes in, it's usually disaster time. So you want to. That's not necessarily the same skill set, but a guy that your staff feels like you can win with. That to me is the key. And I think Gardner did about as well as you could do. Coming in and give Shane and his staff credit and give Gardner a lot of credit for coming in and playing winning football. I mean, that was not an easy task.
Chris, you know that question that Chappie asked about Pittman? I'm asking it about Gardner.
Yeah, but you didn't ask it in the same way.
I can't remember.
You didn't pay enough attention to his question.
I'm on the draft question. You got to give him something.
I'll say this: we really think the world of Gardner. Gardner is highly competitive. I mean, and he sees himself, and that's great. I wouldn't want it any other way from Gardner. I mean, he bleeds confidence, and that's who he is, and that's what I love about him.
Chris, I'm going to ask the same question about Kenny Moore. What did you see from him this past season? And he obviously wants to be here. It sounds like you guys want to keep him here.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kenny and I, we claimed him in 2017. He's been here since, I have, and he's a special human being. Had a really good year. I thought a bounce back year from a year ago. He's got, in this, what he does as the nickel, it is valuable, and it's valuable to us. We'll see how it works out. I mean, love to have him back. I think he knows that, but we'll work through it.
Okay, thanks, guys.